Today, I'm going to be reading Sideways Stories from Wayside School by Lewis Sacker. So, let's begin. Chapter 8, Myron. Myron had big ears. He was elected class president. The children in Mrs. Jewell's class expected him to be a good president. Other presidents were good speakers. Myron was even better. He was a good listener, but he had a problem. He didn't know what a class president was supposed to do. So he asked, "What am I supposed to do exactly?" "It's a difficult job," said Mrs. Jewells, "but you can do it. You just turn the lights on every morning and turn them off at the end of the day." What? Said Myron. "As class president, you must learn to listen," said Mrs. Jewells. "I'll repeat myself only one more time. You must turn the lights on every morning." "I heard you the first time," said Myron. It doesn't sound like much of a job." "It certainly is," said Mrs. Jewells. "Without light, I can't teach. All the children can't learn. Only you can give us that light." "I think it is a very important job." "I guess so," said Myron. He wasn't convinced. "Here, let me show you how light switches work," said Mrs. Jewells. "I already know," said Myron. "I've been turning off lights all my life." "Very good," said Mrs. Jewells. "You'll make a fine president." Myron wanted to be the best president ever, but it was such an easy job, he thought, that anyone could do it. When school let out that day, Myron stayed behind and turned off the lights by flicking the switch down. "Excellent," said Mrs. Jewells on his way home. Myron heard a horrible noise. First, there was a loud screeching, then a sharp squeal, a roaring engine, and then the faint sound of a girl crying. Myron ran to see what happened. Dana was bent over in the middle of the road. "What's the matter?" asked Myron. "My dog, Pugsy, was hit by a car," Dana cried. "Who did it?" said Myron. "I don't know," Dana sobbed. "They sped away." "Well, that's not important," said Myron. "We've got to try to save Pugsy." Pugsy lay unconscious in the street. Myron carefully picked her up and carried her 2 miles to the vet. Dana cried on his side. "Don't worry, Dana," said Myron. "She'll be all right." But he wasn't so sure. He gave Pugsy to the vet. Dana walked home. Dana was so upset she forgot to thank Myron. Myron didn't mind. He thought that was what being class president was all about. The next morning, before he went to school, Myron went to Dana's house. Pugsy was there. She seemed all right. Dana petted her. Pugsy licked her face. "See, Myron, she's all right," said Dana. The vet said, "You brought her just in time." "Hi, Pugsy," said Myron. He pet her. Pugsy bit his hand. "I guess she doesn't know you," said Dana. She was unconscious yesterday when you saved her life." Dana's mother put some medicine and a Band-Aid on Myron's hand. Then she drove the children to school. They were late. They ran up the stairs to Mrs. Jewell's class. The room was completely dark. "It's about time you got here, Myron," said Mrs. Jewells. "We have no lights." "Why didn't someone else just turn them on?" said Myron. "Because you're the class president," said Mrs. Jewells. "Show Stephen how to work the lights." show Stephen how to work the lights. From now on, he will be president. Myron showed Stephen how to turn on the lights. He flipped the switch up. At the end of the day, Myron showed Stephen how to turn off the lights. He flipped the switch down. After a week, Stephen finally caught on. He made a good president. The lights were on every morning. Myron, who was president for only a day, was the best president in the history of Wayside School. It was just no one knew it. Okay, Chapter 9, Marisha. Marisha liked ice cream. She was sweet and pretty and could beat up any boys in Mrs. Jewell's class. Everybody liked Marisha except Kathy, but she didn't like anybody. Marisha only liked ice cream. Every day, Marisha brought an ice cream cone to school. She kept it in her desk until lunchtime. Wouldn't your ice cream just melt? It's melting on the picture here. Right there. Oh my God. Please do not bring ice cream to school, children. That is not allowed. At first, she brought chocolate ice cream every day, but soon she got tired of chocolate ice cream. Excuse me? So she started bringing vanilla, but she got tired of vanilla too. Then she tried strawberry, fudge, ripple, peanut butter, pistachio, and cherry. In that order. And then a terrible thing happened. Marisha got tired of ice cream. By the time her desk was a mess and everything was stinky. Everybody liked Marisha, but Marisha didn't like anything. Mrs. Jewels hated to see Marisha unhappy. I don't understand it, Mrs. Jewels cried. I don't understand it, Mrs. Jewels, cried Marisha. There just aren't any good flavors anymore. So Mrs. Jewels worked all night. The next day, she brought in a new flavor of ice cream for Marisha. It was Marisha-flavored ice cream. Everyone will like it, thought Mrs. Jewels, because everyone likes Marisha. Here you go, Marisha, said Mrs. Jewels. Marisha-flavored ice cream. Everyone gathered around Marisha. They hoped she'd like it. Marisha took a lick. Well, said Mrs. Jewels. Marisha took another lick. Well, said the class. The ice cream has no taste, said Marisha. It doesn't taste bad, but it doesn't taste good. It doesn't taste like anything at all. Mrs. Jewels was heartbroken. Here, let me try it, said Todd. He tasted it. You're crazy, Marisha, he said. This is the best tasting ice cream in the world. Try some, Dee Dee. It's delicious, said Dee Dee. It was so sweet and creamy. She passed it around the room. Oh, it's good, said Leslie. I think it's terrible, said Kathy. I don't understand it, said Marisha. I don't taste a thing. Mrs. Jewels slapped herself on the face. Oh, I've made a big mistake, Marisha. Of course you can't taste anything. It's Marisha-flavored ice cream. It was the same taste you always taste when you're not tasting anything at all. How many times did I say taste in that? So the next day, Mrs. Jewels brought in Joe-flavored ice cream. Marisha liked it, so did everybody else. Joe thought it had no taste. Everyone liked Marisha. Marisha only liked Joe. The following day, Mrs. Jewels brought in Ron-flavored ice cream. Ron thought it had no taste, but everyone else loved it. Everyone liked Marisha. Marisha only liked Joe and Ron. But at the end of the month, Mrs. Jewels had brought in 27 new flavors of ice cream for each member of the class. Everyone liked Marisha, and Marisha liked everybody. They all tasted so good, all except Kathy. That is Kathy flavored ice cream. Tasted a little bit like old cheese. Everybody still agreed that Marisha's flavored ice cream was the best, except Marisha. She liked Todd's ice cream the best. This turned out to be a problem. Every once in a while, Marisha would try to take a bite of Todd's arm in order to get that special flavor. And that is the end of chapter 9. Come back for more. Bye-bye.